Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to AVX Live. I'm Joe Gilderson, President of Corporate Audio Visual Services. And I got to tell you, it feels like forever since I've seen everyone online here. But in reality, it was just a few crazy weeks. And here we are. We're back. Nobody forgot about anything. But we're at the end of June, so we're now ready to dig into our summer months. We have a whole bunch of different projects. We have a bunch of different events for the 4th of July. Seems like a perfect time for a new episode. But before we bring in our guest, I got to remind everybody just how you can find us. So you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube every Wednesday at 1 p.m., except for the last couple of Wednesdays. While you're on those channels, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button to follow us on those channels. If you're watching live, drop us a comment, be a part of the show. I am sure our guest would love that interaction. And if you miss it live, go back, check out our YouTube channel. You can see the other 111 episodes. And then, of course, after that, we're going to take some real words of wisdom and we're going to chop them up. We're going to put them on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Now that we've gotten through all of that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guest that we're bringing on today, Joe Pizzimenti. Joe Pizzimenti is the CEO of CClean, a premier cleaning company trusted to maintain the region's leading healthcare and education institutions. Founded in 1984 as a small family business, CClean has grown into a thriving company, employing more than 140 people and setting industry standards for quality and reliability. Services include daily cleaning, annual special event deep cleaning, floor restoration, post-construction cleaning, and more. It's been a big year for CClean as the company celebrates 40 years in business in 2024. In March, Joe was recognized by the Association of Development Officers as Outstanding Community Partner. And then in April, the Business Council of Westchester inducted CClean into the Westchester County Hall of Fame. And then a follow-up in May, Joe was named a Westchester Magazine Healthcare Hero. I mean, you know, we only bring the best guests in here. So please welcome to our stage, Joe Pizzimenti.
Hi, Joe. Great to be here.
It's an honor to have you. I mean, do you know what I had to go through with your booking agent to get you here?
That's more my issue than theirs.
I mean, you got a real team working for you, so that's a good thing all around.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I mean, I like to think that this June is the real follow-up to the 40th anniversary awards that you've been receiving, that being on AVX Live is probably the capstone.
Oh, it's the pinnacle. Absolutely. No, everything's been leading up really just to this moment.
I mean, that's what I figured. I was waiting till you won all the awards before we were going to bring you on. Listen, Joe, you know, a lot of people probably don't know. Oh, hold on. We already have comments from the Peanut Gallery. Marissa Madonia says there's two Joes. She's very confused right now.
She gets it. She gets it.
She does get it. She's pretty smart. She's sharp, you know. But a lot of people probably don't actually know what you do at CClean. So why don't we start there? Tell us about CClean.
Yeah, so we've been around. We've been around a minute for over 40 years. Primarily, we serve the healthcare and educational markets here in Westchester County, providing comprehensive and really what really sets us apart is our responsiveness and professionalism and a little bit of technical knowledge, which we'll get into a little later on today. But we're focused really on the Westchester market, a little bit into the city, a little bit into Fairfield, but really we're a part of this community. So it's really an honor to be recognized this year by ADO and both Westchester Magazine for the Healthcare Heroes recognition. It's been since 2020. It's been a bit of a ride, ups and downs, and having to retool and figure out supply chain and labor and all those other things. So it's made us into a better company.
Well, I know I certainly see you everywhere, and you're very active in the community and very supportive of a lot of different groups. So I think that really stands out, and I'm sure that that's why you're being recognized so highly across the community. I also do see another comment only accentuating what I said from one Hillary Millman. Now that you've made it to AVX, you can retire.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That's just what Hillary says. And whatever Hillary says, I usually try to do.
Yeah,
So,
that's the law, I think. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want any problems. Yeah. But, you know, it's funny because our show is usually about technology. And I know that when people think of commercial cleaning, technology and data management and things like that probably are not the first thing that come to mind. But I understand that you guys do things a little differently at CClean. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so technology in the cleaning industry is it's pretty old. Traditionally, mop, bucket, vacuum, that sort of thing. But when you get into the more heavily regulated environments, such as healthcare and education, assisted living, and those types of facilities, they're all governed by regulatory bodies, and they all go through accreditation every certain number of years. And we have to follow certain policies and procedures. And the entire cleaning industry is really the service that we offer is, we'll perform certain tasks at certain frequencies to maintain a healthy and comfortable environment for our clients and their stakeholders. So it's really digging in on that sort of task scheduling and having quality assurance program that really supports the entire operation. We will conduct regular inspections of our spaces on a daily basis and make sure that they're performing to the right standard. If we need to adjust some of the task and frequency schedules in order to maintain an environment better, all that data really, really helps us and really helps inform our training for our frontline employees.
You know, that's pretty interesting because way back, I worked in the uniform world. And so I dealt with a lot of commercial cleaners.
Mhm.
And, you know, I just think about how they used to handle things. You say mop and bucket. Okay, well, that makes sense. So data management in the healthcare environment, that sounds complicated. For what I used to see, I bet you is not what you guys are doing. So
Yeah, I mean, years
how do you,
ago, you'd have paper checklists. So we use an inspection software that'll score each area. For example, the room I'm in is an office. So there's an inventory of certain items that are in any type of room that we clean. So all that information goes into our inspection software, and it'll develop a score for a room based on any deficiencies such as dust on an exhaust fan or in the corner or inconsistent appearance in flooring. So that'll develop a score. And so our minimum passing score that our minimum standard is really 85%. We like to see scores in the 90 plus range. Once we see scores above like 95 or 97%, something's up. Either the person doing the inspection is not really doing the inspection, so that'll be a red flag to us. But what we like to see is, we would like to have consistency, things stay at 95% all the time. But what we see is, if you're scoring at 90, then the next inspection to see an incremental improvement, that's really all we can do. Is address whatever the concerns are, whatever the deficiencies are. It could be training. It could be that we're dealing with absenteeism. It could be maybe that just that the employee, most of our employees are part-time. So maybe the employee just had a bad day that day and the area didn't score well. So, but it's more about supporting the employees in those types of situations, making sure that they have everything that they need in order to do the job. So the data really tells a story, but it's not the whole story. You still need the human element behind it. And so another part of conducting these daily inspections is we're in every part of the facility every day. So we can inform the engineering and facilities team about light fixtures being out, leaking fixtures, and things of that nature. So that's kind of a value add for a lot of our clients is providing that extra set of eyes throughout the facility, because we'll notice it before they do, and before
Right.
somebody will report it, and for them to be able to handle an issue before it even becomes recognized really makes them look good. And as in the facilities industry, there's rarely an opportunity to look good. So when it presents itself, it's nice to be able to help them out in that way.
Well, that's quite a preventive program. I mean, if somebody else is doing it for you, that's even better, So,
Yeah, exactly.
and are those like the way you measure everything? Is that something that's required by the healthcare institutions, or is it something that you guys put into place?
Oh, that's all us. It came up on an RFP for an educational client years ago, where it was really quite brilliant. The company running the RFP also offered inspection software, and they mandated it as part of the contract. So that's how we got started. And then we liked the platform and all the data, and really on that contract, that facility had, I think, 18 buildings. So we had to inspect half the buildings every month in joint inspections with the facilities contact. So when you're doing joint inspections like that, even if you're not doing the joint inspections, if you're just providing the data, that's a retention. That's a retention strategy when you're providing all that information, because very few companies do it. And it shows that you're really on top of your game, as long as you're conducting an honest inspection. And then we also use a ticketing platform. So between the inspection scores and the ticketing, we're able to provide monthly data to our clients on our activities. So if we'll have certain projects happen that, they're not happening every day. They're happening maybe 10, 15 times a year. So we'll report on that type of activity every month to our clients.
I mean, I think that's great. I happen to love information and numbers. And so to me, I always thought, so we measure what we call a success rate. We measure that, right? And for years ago, because I was trying to come up with a way to set us apart was one of the things. And it was really how you were going to determine to get the number. And we ended up coming up with a very simple method to it. But, because every time I talk to somebody, they say, oh, well, we have a 95% success rate. I say, that sounds a little too pretty. That's why
What's behind that?
When you said that, 97.
What's the math on that? Yeah.
I said, how do you determine that? One guy said, oh, I don't. I just made that up. That's what one person actually told me. I said, that's exactly right. And that's why I don't believe it. So anything that's got like a point, a decimal to it, like I'm much more inclined to believe that.
Legit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like when it's, if it looks slightly not perfect is what I'm looking for, because otherwise I don't think it's believable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, because nobody believes 100%. But in executing on this strategy, our client retention strategy our client retention rate, which we measure on a monthly basis, has not dipped below 95% for the last 3 years. So, and no matter what you do in my industry, at least 5% of your clients or 5% of your revenue is going to disappear no matter what you do. There's going to be a location that closes, a point of contact will move, they'll reduce their scope, their budget got changed, a dozen things could happen. So no matter what, you're shrinking 5% a year. So, so to have that goal of 95%, I think that's kind of right where we need to be. Some months we'll hit 97, other months we'll hit 93, but it's kind of average, that 95%.
I think the fact that you have the information is real power just by itself.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of work to really implement these systems in a low tech industry, in an industry where, your labor isn't really technical, you
Hmm.
know. You're training them, you're providing some training, some technical training, but you can implement these systems and make them really complex and nobody will use them. So the
Right.
challenge is in making it simple to the end user. So that's been something that we're kind of focused on. So the inspection and ticketing software, that's not our own technology. We work with an outside company for that, and they provide us the software. But lately, we've been working with a developer to develop apps on the Microsoft Power Platform. Because what's
Hmm.
happened over time is we have our payroll software, we have our
Right.
ticketing and inspection software, we have our CRM, and then we have our productivity apps through Microsoft. And all these systems are just, if they could talk to each other, you'd cut down on some data entry and human error, and you'd be able to get insight on, oh, you have absenteeism at this site on a regular basis. Is it because of the way the job's set up? Is it because of the way you workloaded the assignments? Are people, are the cleaners overloaded with work and that's why they're leaving? Or do you just have a bad manager there?
Hmm.
So the more data you have that can feed into these different systems, that's kind of a project that we're working on this year. So it started internally with an inventory management system where we maintain a warehouse of inventory at our central location. And then at each location, we have a QR code inside the closet. Cleaner will scan the
Okay.
QR code and it only shows them the list items that are supposed to be in that location. And that sets up a requisition process where either things will get drop shipped or sent out. And so over time, through the use of that system, we'll be able to see what actual consumption is by location. We'll be
Hmm.
able to spot occupancy trends and work with our clients on maybe, if we notice that the consumption has dropped, maybe we can take a look at the way the job's set up, and maybe dial back the frequency on certain items. If it's a hybrid environment, if they're not, maybe we just need to rotate through the space on a weekly basis instead of a daily basis. So I think it's going to help us out a lot, and that is going to lead to other sorts of applications where we're pulling data from payroll and plugging it into our ticketing system. So really bridging the gap on these technologies, I
Hmm.
think is going to be the next step, and we're going to see a lot more of that with all these low code options through Microsoft, which everybody uses Microsoft 365. So you're paying
Everybody.
for it anyway. So it's really a matter of investing, thinking about what your business process is, and figuring out a way to automate it on that platform.
I love it. I think this is a great way to use information. I would imagine that not only helps you lock in your clients. I mean, again, there's probably not a lot of people who are using the data the way you're using it, and I mean, you have real ways that you can help them.
Yeah, absolutely, and it provides some insight to us on what's going on out in the field. Because there'll be things that you can pick up on data that aren't necessarily reportable, in real time, and it's good to, as you aggregate all that information, it provides you some real good pathway forward, in terms of how to properly estimate things in the future and seeing
Right.
where you're seeing consumption drops and things like that.
I'm sure it's a great way to try to improve profitability as well. So,
Yes, absolutely.
I am curious about the nuts and bolts. So, on the inspection process, how is someone physically entering this information on site?
Oh, it's on a smartphone or an iPad. They can enter it that
Okay.
way. Yeah.
And,
Yeah. And
and
so
that's
we
the
have,
inspector.
yes. Yeah. And so that's usually done either by supervisor or area manager or operations manager, or even our client relationship managers. You know, they're all able to conduct these inspections. But we have the supervisors will conduct inspections every night of their areas.
All right.
And so, you know, and our operations team will go around and conduct joint inspections with them. And sometimes we'll conduct inspections, joint inspections with our clients. But a lot of the times they just want the information. They don't really
Great.
want to come around on a tour with us. But it's comforting to them to know that it's being done.
Well, and it gives you guys a lot of face time too, which I would imagine is a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I remember some of that being pretty cutthroat with competition in the past. I don't know about now, but
Yeah. Oh, it's always like that. I mean, there's always, you know, but if we lose a job, it's a lot of the times it's either not our fault or it's totally our fault. You know, and either way,
it's a good way to put it.
yeah, I mean, but the more you can minimize, how do you minimize the totally your fault thing? The totally your fault is
Absolutely.
you haven't met with a client in a long time. You haven't done any outreach, any communication. If all you're doing is taking out garbage and sending an invoice, you know, you're going to see that account turn over year. And it really doesn't take much outreach. You know, it's not that you have, some clients require that. But also the more you communicate, the more you're informed about, oh, we're moving. You should give me, you know, do you
Right.
service this area? Oh, we have construction project coming up. Can you do the post-construction cleaning? And, you know, and so we become like an extension of their facilities department, you know, and that's
Yeah,
kind of our ideal client situation.
I think that's great. It's really much more progressive than I would have expected, to be honest.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you had mentioned using that data as well to, to help on the HR side on making decisions within the company and managing staff. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that part, how it helps you manage your staff and team.
Yeah, so we'll look at things like absenteeism. We'll look at roles and positions that tend to turn over more often than other positions, to really give us some insight. We use our payroll provider is we use a full platform HRIS system that provides information on time and attendance and payroll, ACA compliance. It has lots of other modules to it. That really everything in the employee life cycle is handled there. So it really gives us a lot of good information, and really the reporting that we get out of there helps us on our other platforms as well. It helps us really dial in our labor allocation by location, and that allows us to really drive, understand fully what our efficiency is on different types of locations that we clean.
Well, especially if some of these locations have, you mentioned 18 buildings and have such a physically large space to cover.
Yeah.
It has to be hard. So you need that data really is a tool.
Yeah. And so that's supported by, every job that we take on, we like to have the drawings. So we have a floor plan so we can look at, how many exam rooms, how many offices, how many waiting areas. And that's really how we price things. We don't price per square foot. It's all task and frequency based. But the more information we have, we can analyze productivity across account. Is this account in Yorktown being cleaned the same way as this one in New Rochelle? It's the same floor out, same floor plan, same number of exam rooms, room types, and square footage. So why are we more productive here and less productive there? And a lot of times, it's just, doctor's working late, so maybe we just start a little later. So it's really all that information's out there. You just need a way to collect it.
That's pretty amazing. Our friend Hillary has chimed in, and I think she's giving herself a plug. I'm not sure, but that's what it feels like.
I think so. Everything is communication. She's absolutely right.
It is true. You know, we had a discussion last week. It's like what you were referring to. We call our controllable problems. We say, okay, look, this is controllable. This isn't controllable. Let's try to work on everything we can to avoid the what is it? It's either our fault or
It's either not our fault or
completely
it's totally our fault. It's completely our fault. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's funny. But someone had, I don't know, their video didn't play. We didn't even know they had a video. It was buried in a PowerPoint that they didn't review.
Yeah.
And they said, well, why didn't it work? We didn't even know you had one. If you don't tell us stuff, we're not going to know it.
Yeah, it's strange. It's strange how that happens. Yeah, your
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's very high pressure. Your industry, you know.
Well, because it's public. Like
Yeah.
everything happens in front of everyone else. That's the, you know, that is one of the big differences. But either way, it's still a service that has a lot of controllable functions, very similar to yours, with a lot of uncontrollables as well. Like everybody has their uncontrollables. You know, you talk about integrating kind of all these different software, and we certainly have the same kind of situation with certain things. Our inventory, we're heavily inventory based, is we went to the cloud on that probably about 12 to 13 years ago. Really, like definitely the first company in the area to do that. And there was only like 40 companies that, you know, when we joined this particular software. So, you know, there's a lot of ups and downs that went with that, of course, in the beginning. But we then tried to, we went to integrate that to QuickBooks. We went to integrate it with staffing software. And those were like disasters. You know? So we actually haven't gone back to integrating, but are reevaluating right now. So I just know those are our problems. But I mean, how are you finding some of this integration and actually hiring a developer?
Yeah, so I mean, hiring a developer, it really just that was more of a personal relationship. That I said, well, you do this for somebody else. Would you be willing to freelance? So that's kind of how that started, and they had actually developed a similar software for a large retail company on the inventory, and then that just kind of fed from there, and understanding kind of how that works. You know, you can buy an off-the-shelf software package for inventory management or for anything you can imagine, and you'll pay your annual license fees. Or you can develop the thing from the ground up, and you know, you pay your Microsoft license fee, and it's fine. But I think the real power is in getting things to talk to, getting these different systems to talk to each other, is really where you're going to receive a benefit from it, because it's really up to you to define what your business process is. And all these software packages, you know, they think about it from their way, which will apply to the broadest number of companies, but it might not be the best way for you. You know, for us, we don't need like a true inventory management because we're using the products get used. So if we send product to a facility like paper goods or liners, that stuff gets used. So how do you reconcile that in a traditional inventory management system? You can't. So you kind of have to tailor it to your own needs. So the system doesn't know what to do with that.
Right.
You know, so you got to get creative with that part of it.
How long ago did you guys start kind of using all of this data? Because I would imagine it started as very traditional and it's probably evolved a lot over your 40 years.
Yeah.
When
So
did data become more important?
In 2018, I remember I had my first Zoom call in 2018 when we were working with the payroll company that we still use to this day. That has this comprehensive. They're very, very tech forward for a payroll company. And so their single platform included time and attendance, you know, cutting checks and all sorts of labor management and scheduling. So really kind of started there, and moving to that system got rid of 3 different systems. So it's really been that approach plus the ticketing and inspection software that we've been using, plus moving to Microsoft 365. And then really in the last 2 years, I'd say, you know, we've been on an initiative to really tie everything together so we can get good reporting that that really helps us in terms of operating the business.
I think it's great. And it's got me thinking all sorts of things, which nobody's going to like by the time we get off this call. But
sorry.
You're probably coming over here. You're going to walk through some stuff. But I mean, no, you know, this is, I just don't think people think technology when they think cleaning, except for the Roomba. Like, I mean, are there going to be Roombas everywhere? I mean, that's been around for a while.
We've dabbled in the robotics. In certain applications, it makes a ton of sense, like airports, warehouses, to have these robotic vacuums that kind of make their way through the facility. Sometimes they'll get lost. They always need an operator. Somebody needs to, and a lot of the current generation, they're self-charging. And even down to the ones that are combination sweepers and auto scrubber. So an auto scrubber is, you know, it's this big Zamboni looking contraption that essentially replaces the mopping function. So, you know, so you have these combination sweeper auto scrubbers that are dealing with, you know, wastewater and things like that. And so they have a combination charging and rinse system, and it'll preload with chemical. So in certain types of environments, that makes sense. If you have wide open hallways or an area like airports and conference centers and things like that, it kind of makes sense. They're not really there yet in terms of fully automating, but for certain functions, you know, the success rate is a lot better in terms of accuracy than a human operator would be. You know, like they have some of these will operate in just spot cleaning mode. You'll just see it roaming around an airport or conference center. Mm-hmm. It sees a spill and it goes to it, cleans it up. There's LiDAR on the back that'll sense if it completed the task. Otherwise, it turns around and comes back. So for that type of task, you know, it's fine, but you still need somebody to operate it, program it, troubleshoot it if it goes down. And that's kind of the challenge with the current generation.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, I still don't know what that machine does in Stop and Shop other than say that there's, you know, like been a spill. But it's no, I think the environments you're in, you know, having that human touch is really important, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, doors are a problem, you know.
Haven't seen too many hands come out yet. You know, you got to go to Berkeley to see those. But
yeah, but they're getting better and better. I actually saw at the conference last year, I saw a window cleaning drone, which is amazing and terrifying to me, you know. But I don't think it's going to do a high rise, but for, you know, for like a low rise building, it might make sense. Wow. But it's interesting to see where all these things are heading, you know. Yeah, and it's going to be the traditional tech life cycle where, oh, you have this new thing that came out. It's great. Why don't you buy it? And then we get it, and it doesn't really work that great. But then, like, you know, a couple iterations later, it does, you know.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. But, you know, in the meantime, I think, man, you guys are really doing some cool things and utilizing technology, and that really puts your company ahead. So I can see how you'd be celebrating in the 40 years and how you guys would have received so many awards this year.
It's a lot of fun. I really like digging into the technology and the data. And, it can tell a story, but it really just provides you a starting point to really dig in and see how you can perform better as a company, whether it's, in terms of supporting your employees with more training or reconfiguring an area, getting better equipment in place, and things of that nature.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, we've talked a lot about data and we've talked about all sorts of technology, but what do you do when you're not at work, when you're not, digging into these systems? Tell me something fun.
Oh, something fun. So I've been making wine since 2009.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
So that's a fun hobby. Good return on investment. I'd started that there was a friend of my dad's that was always making wine, and he was younger than my dad, but older than me. And at the time, I was involved in some construction management projects and things of that nature. He's an engineer, and so he was always a mentor to me. So I would always break his chops and say, when are you going to teach me to make wine? So Marissa can attest that the wine is delicious. Thank you, Marissa.
Wow.
We don't have enough for everybody, but we can work on that.
Wow, that's pretty great.
We can work on that.
This isn't like, when I used to visit my ex-wife's family, there was Uncle Jimmy would make the grappa. And I mean, that thing, I think the rocket could hit the moon off of that.
No, that
was real firewater, man.
That involves distilling, which is illegal in the state of New York. So I don't know anything about that, Joe.
Well, he's not around anymore. It might have been the grappa.
Yeah, but it's fun. So this iterative process that we went into earlier, that happened with winemaking too. So when I was making wine with my friend, he had the crusher that you'd lose a hand in that thing because it was like either his father's or his grandfather's. There's exposed gears and belts and all this stuff. I said, Bob, I like my hands. So why don't we buy a nice stainless crusher destemmer, and we can, address like the high acidity issues that we were having from just crushing and having the juice sit on the stems. It creates a lot of tannic acid. So let's invest in this crusher destemmer, pulls the stems out, and then we'll start the fermentation that way. He said, yeah, that makes sense. And let's move away from these plastic drums and get real fermentation vats. And oh, by the way, they have these stainless steel tanks that are really nice. We'll just get the biggest one that'll fit through a 3-foot doorway. And it holds about 750 liters of wine. And then every year we started buying more and more equipment. So we're like, you spend whatever you spend on grapes, but whatever you spend on equipment, you can amortize that over 30 years. So, why not just buy the best stuff that'll make it easier? Because so now we have equipment where, whether you're making 30 gallons or 300 gallons, it really supports the addiction, so to speak. And then over time, we started with the winemaking, just with a real simple formulation on the process of, you have your yeast starter, you crush the grapes and you start your yeast starter, and it's the same for all the red grapes. And then we kind of moved in a different direction. I started buying grapes from a different supplier up in Connecticut. And he said, you should really follow Scott protocol. Your fermentation's taking too long, and that's why you're having these acidity challenges. I'm like, all right, well, fine. So that was like 2018. And so he gives me like an Excel spreadsheet of all these additives. So he said, you crush the grapes, you crush and destem, and then you add an enzyme. The enzyme's going to allow the grape skins to kind of loosen up a little more. You're going to get better color extraction. You add a little oak dust and a couple other variables that extracts more color. And then once the fermentation gets going, if you get a glycol chiller and you can lower your fermentation temperature, you won't get those spikes, and you'll finish everything. It'll finish nice and dry. So then we start to, and the quality of the wine just got really good, and it lasts. It lasts a lot longer. It doesn't turn as quick. So
Wow.
so it's fun. So you're doing this whole thing, and every year you're trying to get a little better at it, a little better at it, a little better at it, and you're learning this whole way through. And I don't really drink, Joe. I mean, I don't, if I have a glass of wine a couple times a month, that's what it is. So I'll make it, I'll give it away to clients mostly. Because I think it's a felony, because we haven't been federally taxed. So we just kind of give it away to friends, family. And what's funny is, people hear I make wine, so they'll come over and they'll bring a bottle of wine with them. I said, I'm trying to get rid of all my wine. Please don't bring me any more. I have no time to drink it. Let's open it tonight. It's good. So it's then
very
over
popular,
time,
I would imagine.
Yeah. So you get into it. So you have this great product. And so now we're into packaging, designing a label. And a lot of times, the label and the packaging and the bottling and all that'll be more expensive than the grapes by the time you're done with it. But it's a really nice finished product. So instead of using corks, we use like a glass closure with a silicone gasket on it. So that'll keep it from, that'll help preserve the wine over time and helps keep it
very
stable.
Nice. So. Well, it seems like a pastime or a hobby that takes a lot of time and money.
Yeah, it's fun. What's nice about it is, you have, from when you crush the grapes, like really that first month, you have to kind of really be diligent with it. But then after that, between that time when the fermentation's complete and bottling, it can be something where you sneak it in on a Tuesday night or Sunday night, a couple hours here, a couple hours there,
I didn't know it was so much, but it definitely
it can be.
Like,
I mean, it's not, most people
don't
do this. Most people don't do this. They'll just
You've taken it to the extreme.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of
I love it. I love it. I think that's great. Well, listen, Joe, this has been a really, really interesting conversation. And, I'm looking forward to tapping into your thought process on.
I'm happy.
Some other data points and things, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm happy to come over and really, drive the rest of your team crazy with all this, all these things you're about to do.
Yeah, they probably aren't going to like it much, but that's okay. You throw them a bottle of wine, they'll be fine, Joe.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I'll bring some.
Well, listen, I don't want to tie you up for the rest of the day. Thank you very much for joining us today. This is really great. Congratulations on 40 years for CClean and your family, and congrats on all the awards this year too. All well deserved.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Well, listen, thank you everyone for joining us here. We've gotten a lot of comments, and yes, apparently Marissa's very excited about the wine. Well, she chimes in a lot about that. But I mean, pretty amazing how you can apply technology to an industry that no one would consider. And then that gives you a better client experience. And we talk about the experience here, but better client experience, a better way to run your business. And it's all due to implementation of technology, which is really cool. So once again, congrats to CClean on their 40 years. And listen, that's about all we got for today. So let's wrap this thing up. You guys can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube every Wednesday, 1 p.m. While you're there, hit the like and subscribe button anytime you want, except for Marissa talking about wine. You can drop us a comment and be a part of the show. Make sure to check out Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I'm sure we'll have a couple of short clips on afterwards. So thank you, everyone, for joining us once again. Let's see if I can find the right button. I have located it. Thank you, CClean. Thank you, Joe Pizzimenti. Time to go. Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.